So, funny enough, before I actually did this video, I was looking at some of my comments for, I was looking at some of my comments for, the Steven Universe episode 51 review, and someone actually asked if I was going to do a segment of what would they listen to, this segment right here, where I talk about what kind of music would these characters have on their iPod, if they had one, and what would they listen to on their off time. And sure enough, someone asked if this was going to happen. Coincidence? I think so! So, yeah, totally coincidental that someone asked about this and I was just about to do the video, so I find that completely hilarious. Anyway. So, once again, welcome to What Would They Listen To, where this segment is more or less about what kind of music could I see characters listening to on their off time. And today I'm going to be doing Steven Universe. So, let's dive right into this with, of course, starting off with Steven himself. Now, Steven, I could see a good menagerie of songs. I think he would be introduced to a lot of songs through Greg. So, I think with Steven, he would definitely be listening to, like, Weird Al, and They Might Be Giants, and maybe the Dead Kennedys. That's a possibility. I don't know, it just seems like he would be a fan of the Dead Kennedys. But I could also see Steven being a fan of, like, the Beach Boys, and the Beatles, the Monkees, a lot of those, like, classic rock and roll bands that, you know, your grandfather listened to, and probably most people listen to for fun. But yeah, you know, judging from what we saw with the multiple Stevens episode, he has it looks like he has an affinity for that type of easygoing rock and roll stuff. So I could see him listening to "I Get Around" by the Beach Boys on or just having fun with that. But yeah, a lot of easygoing rock and roll. Maybe some Rolling Stones, but I think that would be as heavy as it got with the Stones right there. So yeah, that's what I think Steven would be listening to. Now, Pearl, I could imagine Pearl listening to a lot of classical music, because obviously she's been around for centuries, along with the rest of the gems. I could imagine that Pearl's music would be ranging from Beethoven to Bach to Mozart, to a lot of, like I said, classical music. And, other great composers like Leopold Stokowski and a few other great musicians throughout history. I would also have to say, this is going to be a long shot, but I think also, I could just imagine Pearl listening to Madonna. Seriously, like, for some reason or another, she strikes me as a Madonna fan. Don't ask me how, she just totally strikes me as a fan of Madonna, so, yeah. She would occasionally listen to that, and maybe I could just see her, listening to Like a Prayer in her room all by herself. So, yeah. Maybe it's also some other 80s pop, like A Flock of Seagulls, or, oh, yeah, honestly, I could see her listening to Heart. Yeah, I could see Pearl listening to Heart as well. So that's what I think. Some stuff like that, some music like that. So let's move actually on to Garnet. Garnet would probably be listening to a lot of R&B, rap. Judging by she keeps this very calm, cool demeanor. I think the hardest rock she would listen to is honestly, I can actually see her listening to the Bee Gees. Yeah. I can see her listening to the Bee Gees, 70s, because obviously, look at her design, it's very 70s inspired, so I could see a lot of 60s, 70s disco stuff, like I said, the Bee Gees, Carl Carlton, the Gap Band, Kool and the Gang, stuff like that. I could see that on her listening to that. Again, very 70s inspired, so I can't help but think that Garnet would be listening to a lot of 70s funk stuff. Like, that would be, she'd be listening to Kool and the Gang while she's, fighting, while she's training. So I think that would be cool. Amethyst. So, let's talk about what Amethyst would be listening to. What would Amethyst be listening to? I could see Amethyst listening to a lot of, I could see her listening to Green Day, like I said, Green Day, some Slipknot, not a lot, but some. maybe some Stone Sour at best. Now that I think about it, she also strikes me as a lot of like heavy rap, heavy thrash rap, like public, 80s thrash rap, like Ice-T, Snoop Dogg, a lot of not thrash rap. That wasn't the word I was looking for. Gangster rap. Like like I said, Public Enemy, Snoop Dogg, Ice-T. Yeah, I could also see her having Sir Mix-a-Lot on there. Her and Steven would have I Like Big Butts on their on their iPods. Like, that would be on their list, and they would just be singing it just to annoy Pearl. Oh, yeah. But yeah, a mixture of rap and heavy metal and some punk rock for... oh, yeah. Amethyst would totally be a fan of the Sex Pistols. Yeah, she would totally be a fan of the Sex Pistols. So let's move on to the other characters. Let's move on to Greg. Greg, I could see listening to... Greg is interesting. I think Greg would be a big fan of like a lot of classic rock and roll, like Mountain, Clearwater Cadence Revival. Like I said, for Steven, the Beatles, the Bunkies, a lot of those type bands. I could also see him being a fan of the Steve Miller Band. Who else? Foghat. Peter Frampton. Yeah, Peter Frampton would be another one. But yeah, a lot of those classic rock classic rock and roll bands. And even some Alice Cooper, some Metallica, some 80s stuff too, some 80s rock. I could see him. Oh yeah, judging by his song of Mr. Universe, and also how he looked in that picture we saw of him in the laser light cannon. Something tells me that he was very much inspired by glam rock. So something tells me he'd be listening to Poison and Poison. Oh God, Quiet Riot, Rat. Motley Crue, a lot of those type bands would probably be on his list too. So, yeah. Anyway, so moving on now to Lars. Lars is probably like the biggest Green Day fan you'd ever see. Also, I could see 10 Years, Stone Sour, Cypress Hill. Shit. I'm trying to. I had another one in mind. Like I could see him listening to a lot of. Also, oh yeah, Lars and Sadie would be listening to Blink 182. They would both be. They would totally be Blink 182 fans. Absolutely, they would be totally Blink 182 fans. Oh man. Speaking of Sadie, let's move on to her. Sadie would probably be listening to a lot of pop music. Not pop. Probably something like Timberland. Yeah, not pop's probably not the best word. Today's punk. I could see her definitely as a lot of listening to a lot of punk, like Yellow Card and a lot of early 90s stuff. Like, I could see her having like a whole playlist of NSYNC and Backstreet Boys on her playlist. She just seems like that kind of person to have that kind of music on there. Yeah, and like I could see them driving in her car or just walking around and she's got the music all blared up and Lars is like, God, the 90s are over, Sadie, let it go! Oh, yeah. But yeah, I don't see her... maybe there would be some pop in there, maybe some Natalie Kills or Natalia Kills, whatever, however you say it, in Lady Gaga, but I think that's the extent of the pop she would listen to. That Sadie would probably be listening to. So... who's next? Connie! Yeah, Connie. Connie strikes me as, again, probably someone who listens to a lot of classical music. I would imagine her mother would not be approving of a lot of like hard rock or heavy metal or even like today's pop or stuff. But I could see her sneaking in some Katy Perry into her playlist. And again, she probably would be, thanks to her parents, listening to a lot of classical music. And I could see her also listening to... who else? Yeah, a lot of pop, but not a lot, because obviously, I would imagine her parents, being the over-controlling assholes that they are, would probably not be allowing her to play a lot of that stuff in her, playing that in her room, thinking it would be bad for her. So who else do we have? Let's actually move on to Peridot. Peridot, I could see if she was forced to stay on Earth, which now she is. I see a lot of techno. I see a lot of techno in her playlist, like Skrillex, Daft Punk, music like that. Also maybe some Eurobeat Brony and some Living Tombstone. Shout out if you know who those are. And some Wooden Toaster. Shout out if you know that person is on YouTube. So, a lot of techno. A lot of techno for Peridot. Lapis Lazuli, probably some classical music, or probably something like that. Jasper would be listening to a lot of Drowning Pool, Disturbed, Machine Head, Slipknot. Oh my God, she'd be listening to Rage Against the Machine, a lot of hard, heavy hitting, heavy metal, screamo. A lot of stuff just to get her pumped and just to get her, ready to crack some skulls open. Probably something along that line. So, yeah. I think that would pretty much cover... I know there are some other characters out there like Buck Dewey, Sour Cream, and Jenny. I had those guys right there would probably be listening to a lot of current pop and techno on there, especially Sour Cream. He'd probably just be like Peridot and listening to a lot of techno as well. And same thing with Jenny and Buck Dewey. It was a lot of current stuff. A lot of current stuff I probably wouldn't be listening to. So, yeah, I know there are some other characters, but there's not enough we know. I could say that they could listen to this type of music, that type of music. Can't really say much about that. So you guys tell me. I don't even want to know what Onion listens to. That kid freaks me the fuck out. Anyway, so you guys tell me. What do you guys think? What kind of music do you see the characters of Steven Universe listening to? Really curious to know what you guys think of this one. Just comment below. Let me know what you guys think. What would they listen to? And I hope you guys enjoyed this on a whole. And I will see you all later.